Broadcasting live from our bunker in Montreal, you're watching CSCNN, the Canada, Still a Country news network. I'm your host, Charles-Philippe Pétain de Gaulle Trudeau Tremblay. And I'm your co-host, Rajmeet Patel. And this is This Week in Canada. For our first story tonight, coming in from British Columbia, temperatures have dropped below minus 40 degrees Celsius, which is conveniently also minus 40 Fahrenheit for our American audience. A rare moment of unity between the metric system and school shooters. This staggering temperature was recorded using the government's most precise barometric instrument, by noting that every single homeless person in Vancouver is now dead. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the landlords, who now face steep cleanup costs. In other news, as wildfires continue to ravage northern Manitoba, the displaced raccoon population has now taken over downtown Winnipeg and formed a union. Premier Wab Kinew has responded swiftly, promising to meet all of their demands. Wab has declared that this will be paid for by further increasing tariffs on various American whiskeys. The Raccoons have since endorsed him for re-election. In completely unrelated news, Winnipeg's trash pickup has never been more efficient. This just in, another breaking story brings us back to British Columbia. In a stunning twist, Vancouver is now experiencing a record-setting heat wave. Temperatures have reached above 50 degrees Celsius. For our American viewers, that's too late to matter. We are now hearing reports that every homeless person who survived the cold snap has now died from heat stroke. Carney's Liberal Party has announced that this is a major step forward in their key campaign pledge of solving the housing crisis. In a recent report, the federal government is allegedly planning to tap into its strategic maple syrup reserves for the first time since the 2011 Pancake Rebellion. The Bloc Québécois have already condemned the move, claiming the provincial right to all national resources. The rest of the address was delivered entirely in Québécois French. Unfortunately, no one knows what they said. Back to you, Charles. Ontario has seen a recent rise in violent protests from the new Anti-Hockey League. Their slogan, no goals on stolen land. Last night, they threw vegan poutine at a Pee-wee goalie. They later apologized for the move and helped clean up. This just in, a new policy now requires all McDonald's drive-thrus across Canada to open with French, including in Alberta. In protest, Premier Danielle Smith has unilaterally declared Alberta an independent nation. Unfortunately, no one heard her speech because her staff conveniently forgot to turn her mic on. Also, no one cares what Danielle Smith has to say. And now, a brief educational moment sponsored by Tim Hortons. Did you know that in Canada, there's no such thing as Miranda rights? Instead, everyone, including the police, is legally required to say sorry after committing a crime. That's exactly right, Rajmeet. And in the event of a violent injury, you are also obligated to drive the victim to the hospital, where you can gently lay them down in triage and leave them there, because there are no ER beds left in the country. And now, for the same segment in French. À l'aide, je suis traductrice et je suis retenue contre mon gré. On dit que je ne peux pas quitter le Québec tant que je ne parle pas couramment le français. Je viens de Paris, personne ici parle français. Merci beaucoup, Charles. We now return to your regularly scheduled English programming. Breaking news from Ottawa. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reportedly assassinated another Canadian member of Parliament. The Liberal Party has responded by calling it, quote, a minor roadblock in the re-establishment of diplomatic relations between the Crown and the State of India. Despite the targeted killings, a new trade agreement is expected to be announced tomorrow, and all Indian nationals here on student visas will be granted citizenship by the end of today. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow has declared that this assassination is just further proof Canada is finally being noticed again. Federal authorities are now reporting that a group known as the Indigenous Voice of Canada has issued a rare and unified public statement. The address was delivered entirely in fluent Anishinaabemowin, a powerful and stunning cultural moment for the community. Unfortunately, no one knows what they said. Back to you, Charles. In response, the federal government has announced the formation of a listening committee, composed entirely of senators over the age of 80. The group has promised to meet quarterly over the next 10 years, or whenever someone reminds them that Canada still has a Senate. Their first meeting will take place once they finish redirecting infrastructure funds for their cottage renovations, or whenever their grandkids finally set up the group Zoom call. Breaking news from the border. U.S. President and convicted felon Donald Trump has been permitted to enter Canada, despite his criminal record. Officials say he's being treated like any other American caught smuggling fentanyl and firearms across our unprotected southern border. The Liberal government has expressed no concern and reportedly welcomed Trump with a complimented gold-laminated Tim Hortons rewards card. In response to this warm reception, Trump has doubled all tariffs on Canadian goods and announced plans for a second Trump Tower in Toronto, after learning that the first one was unfairly renamed in 2017. In an unexpected return to the international stage, former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has announced his Broadway debut in a new original musical titled Sophie, Please Come Back to Me. It's already being called the most expensive production in Broadway history, reportedly requiring over 300 hairstylists on standby. Tickets start at $2,300, or 1 week's rent in a downtown Toronto apartment. Critics say the show lacks substance, but delivers an excellent shirtless monologue in Act 2. Security officials in Ottawa have reported multiple sightings of a man identified only as the Peeping Pierre, seen standing outside Parliament pressing his face against the windows. Sources confirm it is, in fact, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, who was denied entry again this week after attempting to bring in his own chair to the building. In response, Poilievre has announced his own one-man Broadway musical, titled Justin, Please Come Back to Me. It will reportedly use the entire federal Conservative Party budget, or about 612 million rupees, same as the price of a one-bedroom apartment in downtown Vancouver. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has already announced that he will not be attending the show. On to royal news. King Charles has issued a royal proclamation reaffirming his commitment to Canada as its head of state. In response, the House of Commons released a joint statement saying, "Okay." To mark the occasion, Canadian banks will be closed for 48 hours, and no one is quite sure why, but they say that they're very sorry about it. King Charles has also been granted ceremonial stewardship over a maple grove in Gatineau, Quebec. His official duties include trying to smile and haunting elementary school textbooks. In our final story for tonight, Prime Minister Carney has pledged Canada's full support for the American-led mission to, quote, return Iran to what it was like in the 1970s. As part of the initiative, NATO is reportedly sending Cyndi Lauper to perform in Tehran and hopes the country will simply remember how it used to be. She was airlifted from a Long Island wine tasting this morning. She'll be performing Girls Just Want to Have Fun through the speaker system conveniently laid out across every single city block in the entire country. That concludes tonight's broadcast from the Canada Still a Country News Network. We'll be back if anything interesting ever happens in Canada again. Until then, stay safe and pretend to stay bilingual. From all of us here at CSCNN, good night. Congratulations on your Canadian citizenship. Thanks, they actually gave me a house in Brampton as a welcome to you.